Hey folks, welcome to Man Cave Makings with me, Gus. A little bit of a change of scenery for today's intro, but don't worry, there is plenty of Man Cave action coming up. We've just redecorated our spare bedroom, and with the usual outflux of old furniture and the potential new furniture coming in, it's on a little bit of a snag. So, my wife would like a ladder rack desk to go into this alcove, and when we've had a look online, yeah, we can find one that would be nice, but it's really expensive and a little bit big. So might have to cut it in half, for instance, which is never good when you're dealing with new bits of furniture. So what do when you've got this kind of conundrum? Well, you make one yourself, of course. And that's what this video is all about. I'm going to try and show you how to build one of these ladder rack desks from scratch with a drawer, some electrics maybe, and some stuff. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get in it. So the first job on the list is to get the angle of the dangle, and to do that all I'm using is a bit of MDF against the wall here. Now I had to put a step into the ladder just to give it a bit of form, so simply marking off the back of that will give me the distance. Handy little tool, an adjustable protractor with an extension arm, and it's got a little lock nut on it, so I lock it in place and it gives me all of my angles that I need to cut for this in everything I do. And in this case it is 82 degrees off the horizontal or 8 degrees off the 90. And there we have it in use, just using that as a basis to cut the feet of the racks off and simply zipping them off with the cross cutter. Now you'll remember the back of the MDF, well that's just given me an easy measurement for the step, and again just zipping them off with the cross cutter. Just measuring across the internal diameter and zipping that through on the cross cutter. Obviously everybody will be different here for their sizes, but I made mine in 900 internal for that. And then it's just a construction job from there. So I use a little nail gun with some staples in it, with a load of glue, some clamps and some ratchet straps just to hold it all together while it's drying off. And then you've got your rack or your ladder all secure and ready to go on the wall. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate to see a load of cables, so I decided to route out the back of the leg to give a cable way. So that's what this is about, and then just drilling through, getting the cable routed through, and then cutting a small 8mm top to go over the top, all flush into the back so you can't see the cable, and that's how that goes in. So the next job really was to make the desk unit itself, and that's a combination of a series of cuts within the MDF. Now I used this guide, which is a 21 by 41 channel, a lot, and it gives me the basis to guide against for all of the material I use for my ripsaw and also my jigsaw, but it's a great little tip to use with a couple of clamps. Then we're on to simply just gluing it all together, and again using the little stapler and getting all of that flush and square. So to get the double gang sockets that I'll be using in the desk, I'm just using plasterboard fast boxes and just cutting them out with a jigsaw, ready for installation. So I wanted to make sure that the backing boxes don't hang below the desk line, so I included that in the calculation just to make sure that there was a little lip there so that you couldn't see the underneath of the boxes when the section is offered up to the desks. So flipping the actual desk over onto the top, and I need to cut out the aperture for the electrics box. Yeah, critical stage, make any mistakes here and there's basically the top would be junk and have to start again. So using this straight edge against the jigsaw runner makes it just such an easy job to do, and hopefully no mistakes. Cut some little tabs out here and I'm going to router those down to make a stop for the lid, so when it comes down into the flush position it's got something to back against. So thinking about the lid itself and how to get cables in and out of the actual electrics portion, I thought, well, I could use a draft excluder, a door draft excluder here, so just cut a little groove into the leading edge so the lip of the excluder could go in there and I could secure it with a couple of staples, and then cutting the actual excluder part of it to the leading edge of the box will then give a nice tight finish, and plus you then can get the cables in and out with the lid closed, and making that look like a real professional job out of something that you can pick up for a couple of quid. So making some simple box sections here, just gluing them and stapling them into position so I can mount the draw runners onto them so I can get something to secure against. The old adage of measure twice, cut once, well, I think I was measure 47 times cut once here, and for the aperture opening of the draw unit, but it came out perfect, which I was delighted with. So I switched up some material for the actual draw itself and used some plywood. Now my experience is when you're using a larger draw unit with MDF, it tends to sag, it doesn't give very much rigidity, so using the plywood gives me that basis. I matched in the front with the MDF though, so when you paint it you get the same finish on the front as you do with the desktop. So coming on to the relatively simple task of making a shelf, well, no, this absolutely burnt my brain. The angles involved when I'm trying to match in the front edge to the rake of the actual rack itself meant that you were dealing with all sorts of funny and funky angles, and to say that it was several cups of coffee and lots of scratching of the head was an understatement, but essentially just working it all through for each of the shelving units just took a load of time, and to be fair, I think a joiner or somebody that was used to making cabinets like this would have whizzed through it in half the time, but when you're doing it yourself in your workshop you've got all the time in the world, and I'm glad I did. But it came out really well, and I'm chuffed with the outcome. And there she is, all nicely painted up, the draw unit and the access into the electrics box through that nice little draft excluder. Thinks looks really nice. I went with the double gang sockets with the USB charging ports as a nice little touch. And there we have it, folks. It's all done, it's all finished, and it's in the bedroom, and I am super chuffed with the outcome. Obviously I don't have very many big workshop tools like table saws, planers, all that kind of stuff, so to get this type of finish with the tools that I used, I am mega chuffed. I had a lot of stuff lying about the workshop, so hence the reason I've used 18mm MDF, but I think that's a bit heavy gauge for this type of stuff. Maybe I would have done something a little bit different had I not had all that material. But I like the way that the rake of the shelving fronts have been matched in with the ladder. That I think is a really nice little touch, and I'm really chuffed with the way that we've got some functionality with putting a drawer in here, for instance, the flip up lid at the back with the socket sunken in there, hiding all of those cables, and I think that really is nice. I think if I hadn't had all that material, maybe 60, 70 pounds, something like that, would have built this, which I think is quite good value, especially when I looked online and I was going to have to spend maybe 2, maybe even 3 times as much as that to get something which didn't have the electrics, didn't have the drawer, and was just fairly plain Jane. And I might have had to cut it in half. But I am mega chuffed. So, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. I really love all the comments coming in. And obviously, if there's stuff that I've done that you go, oh, you've got a better way of doing it, or you've got an easier way of doing it, I love that kind of stuff because it makes me learn too. So please drop me a comment, drop me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you again.